post-match chat is live. 10 games down in this year's PSL, and every single time the chasing team has won, we've seen two totals, big and small, chase down today in the PSL. Karachi Kings made very light work. It was almost a foregone conclusion. 190 plus runs from Multan, and they did it very, very comfortably, largely due to a great knock from Babar Azam for sure. And then the Islamabad United, man, 118. This comfortably the lowest total in this year's PSL. And again, chased down very easily by the Peshawar Zalmi, playing back-to-back games. It's interesting. There's a lot to discuss. There was also a very funky music video that dropped today, and we're definitely going to be talking about that. As always, I'm joined by my friends Anam Nadeem and Armaan Kirmani, and today we've got a very special guest as well, a good friend, player, an agent to many cool cricket players, including some who featured in that music video for the Lahore Qalandars. It is, of course, Dean Ahmad. Dean, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you, man. We'll let you catch your breath for a second. There's a lot to talk about, and I really want to talk about this Lahore Qalandars music video because it's very divisive. I've tweeted it out from our account. If you haven't already seen it, you can go to the post-match chat Twitter timeline, and you'll see it there. You'll either love it or hate it, because that's the response. People are saying it's very, very cool. Other people are saying it's very cringy. Anam, what did you think?
It was unnecessary. उसकी जरूरत नहीं थी. गाना ही काफी था. हम anthem से खुश थे. Video क्यों बनाई है यार? But it was a true representation of Lahore, Lahoris की true representation है उस video में. Careless, कुछ पता नहीं की हो रहा है. चलता पे है, चलते रहने दो. बस हो रहा है, होने दो. But it was needless.
Armaan, that's pretty damning from Anam. Like, needless is what she said. What do you think?
भाई जब अबरारुल हक गाना गा रहे हो तो how can anything go wrong? That's the first thing I want to say. I was a bit disappointed. I was hoping Hafiz Qalandar would feature prominently as their main star player. Like, he was not really at the forefront of that video. And the rest of them, well, let's just say the less said, the better.
Yeah, I mean, Hafiz did the classy thing. He kind of twirled the moustache and said, I'm going to leave it there. But your client, Dean Ahmad, Samit Patel, Nottinghamshire's favourite son, he went for it. He put some moves in there. He properly went for it. Have you spoken to Samit about it since?
I have, and I recently saw that video. I mean, look, me myself, I was pretty speechless watching that. And as you can imagine, the first thing I did was ping that over to Samit and say, interesting. That's all I just said. ... So, it was an interesting one. But he was just saying how it was very, very. The boys enjoyed it. Obviously, both overseas and local. I'm not sure if I could watch that again, but hey ho.
Oh, it did the job. It's got everybody talking about it. It's a little bit dubious. I do wonder how, like, the bravery of those players, because I mean, you got to be incredibly self-conscious to. I mean, I tell jokes for a living in front of hundreds of people. I would feel incredibly self-conscious dancing in front of a green screen, even if it isn't a Darul Haq track. What do you think went through the mind? So go on, Dean.
Yeah, no, I was going to say fair play to those overseas boys who, you can tell they gave it definitely a good go, Samit included. So, fair play to them. And it was a nice mix to see all those overseas boys embracing Pakistani culture in that version of it.
Well, there's nothing more Pakistani culture than, rubbing somebody's bald head. I mean, Armaan.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Samit's just tweeted, let's see your moves instead. So.
That's good. Deflection. Now, Armaan, you I know you danced on camera and film and all sorts of things before, but like, do you think you would have it in you to walk up to Dilbar? Dilbar is an imposing looking man. You walk up to him, would you have it in you to just rub his pind?
भाई देखो ये बहुत खुशी का मोमेंट है पाकिस्तान के लिए. पाकिस्तान में फुल PSL हो रहा है, PSL 6, तो there's no negativity. उस खुशी में मैं किसी के साथ कुछ भी करने के लिए तैयार हूँ, as long as the beauty of Pakistan, चाहे वो बंदा गंजा हो, चाहे उस बंदे के सर में बहुत सारे घने बाल हो, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. This is a celebration. There's no room for negativity. बोल कलंदर.
Very good. I love that, and that's from a Karachi man. I really, really like it. And these videos, I mean, they're designed to get some, hype going about the teams. And obviously Lahore has been very good about, promoting themselves as a franchise beyond just the pitch. They've got the other team in the T10. They've got, other like camps and things like that. It's just something different to engage a different fan base, no?
You're asking this from me?
Yes, Anam, sorry.
अच्छा, I'm so sorry. अच्छा, हाँ, एक पहले भी वीडियो आई थी. I don't remember the season. उसमें तब उमर अकमल भी था और ब्रेंडन मकालम भी था, ठीक है. और उसमें भी ना वो बड़ा शशका था. वो गाना उसने गाया था अली अजमत ने, if I am not wrong. तो वो वाली वीडियो भी बहुत फिट थी और वो भी इसी तरह की थी, कैजुअली बस वो हो रहा है कुछ ना कुछ उस वीडियो में, everybody is dancing and all that. And similarly this one, but I think it does connect with the fans. किसी ना किसी के साथ तो कनेक्ट करती है जो वो ऐसा कंटेंट बनाते हैं ना. एक नीश कह ले जी कि जिनको नहीं पसंद, बट जिनको पसंद है, I'm sure उनको बहुत पसंद होगा ये कंटेंट.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of people liking it. But what did you guys think? Let us know on our Twitter feed. On to the games, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the games today. Two more totals chased down. Let's break them down one at a time. Karachi, looking very, very strong, chasing down 190. Shouldn't 190 plus score be that much of a foregone conclusion? I was very surprised. Armaan, I mean, I know you're happy because your team got a win, which is great. But what did you think, like, in terms of the balance of that game?
देखो, जब कराची जीतता है तो मुझे बैलेंस की कोई फिक्र नहीं होती. That's not at the forefront of my mind. सबसे पहली बात तो ये है, ठीक है ना. The second thing I want to say is, like, I know that you're going to talk about your Karachi and National Stadium. I know it's coming, right? So just before it comes, I'll just say we have to acknowledge the poor level of bowling that we are actually seeing. अगर हम ये चीज नहीं करते हैं, then we're not going to be doing a justice. There is definitely something lacking in terms of our bowling towards the death, in terms of preventing the run rate being so high. It doesn't matter whether you're bowling first and conceding 198 or you're chasing content. 198 for Pakistani bowling attacks is unacceptable. And this is something that is a new problem that's come out of nowhere because our strength has always been our bowling. लेकिन 10 मैच हो चुके हैं, चाहे वो 112 डिफेंड कर रहे हो या 190 डिफेंड कर रहे हो. हम 3 दफा हम देख चुके हैं, I think 190 plus total in the last 3 days. So, I'm afraid to say I'm not happy with our bowling.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people will agree with you there. There was a lot of critique of Wahab Riaz, and we'll talk about him in a second because he had a stunning performance today. But, I mean, is it a case of, Anam, where do you see the balance, right? Is this a case of bowlers underperforming, not deliberately, obviously, just not performing to their potential, or a case of batsmen just being so strong, like unko, like someone like Babar ko banda kaise out kare, even on a difficult pitch, he's difficult to get out.
अच्छा, पहले तो ये कि मुल्तान बहुत फिट पोजीशन में था. आफ्टर 16 ओवर्स दे हैड 6 विकेट्स इन हैंड. तो कराची ने समहाउ उनको रिस्ट्रिक्ट किया है. मुल्तान वर ओनली एबल टू मेक 31 रन्स इन द लास्ट 4 ओवर्स ऑफ द मैच, ठीक है. तो कहीं ना कहीं कराची पुल्ड इट बैक एंड दिस वाज रियली हेल्पफुल फॉर देम क्योंकि 200 नहीं हुआ, टारगेट रिस्ट्रिक्ट हो गया. तो एक ये बात, कहीं ना कहीं बॉलिंग अच्छी थी तो टारगेट रिस्ट्रिक्ट हुआ, वरना 200 से ऊपर जाना था. दूसरी बात ये कि आई डोंट नो, शायद माइंडसेट अब ये है कि आप जब टॉस हार रहे हो, वहीं से आपके दिमाग में दहशत बैठ गई कि यार अब बस ठीक है, दूसरी टीम में जो है उसने जितना मारना है मार ले और वो करे, और उसके बाद हम देख लेंगे हमारे बैट्समैन क्या करते हैं. एग्जीक्यूशन में मसला आ रहा है. डैरन सैमी ने आज बड़ी फिट बात की थी. मैं दूसरे मैच पे जा रही हूँ इस वजह से कि जब 118 पे आउट हो गया इस्लामाबाद, डैरन सैमी का वो इंटरव्यू कर रहे थे तो मैं बहुत खुश
Sorry, Anam, we're just losing you a little bit. We'll let that jump a little bit. Oh, sorry, Anam, we're just losing you a little bit. In the meantime, Dean, I'll ask you this, right? You spend a lot of time with players, and you've got an insight into their mentality and how they think, and like, are players really superstitious? Would something like the record of like, oh god, 10 consecutive matches, you lose the toss, you lose the game, does that play on their minds?
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to superstitions, every player is probably different. In terms of on the whole, the majority, I would say, look, every professional has played, especially in comps like these, has played enough cricket under their belt to understand, you go into every game, it doesn't matter if you've lost the last 5 or last 3, with a new mindset that, it's a new game and anything is possible. So, I'd say these guys are seasoned professionals, especially the overseas lads and the experience they bring. But at the same time, look, it's human nature. If you've lost 5 in a row, or look at the example of Quetta, they now 3 losses from 3. It's hard. It's going to be hard. The pressures on them, both local and overseas names. So I think it just depends.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. And Armaan, like, when you look at the people that are really coming to the fore. Like they're putting in consistent performances. I'm thinking of Barber, 90, another 90, but before that, Rizwan, he didn't go on to the 50 today, but he got himself another 40. Like he's scoring runs consistently. They seem to be completely unaffected by any hype or any music video commitments. I'll throw Hafiz in there as well because he's obviously one of these top Pakistani batsmen who's being really consistent. It's unusual because you and I, we're a similar age. We spent most of our life watching a very inconsistent, limited orders, top order. It's quite a novelty really to see your top players constantly playing well.
I think if you have a gap between such high level of skill and experience and such inexperience, then it actually allows more consistency for our best players. And I feel to a certain extent, maybe just observing, and I'm not sure if this is necessarily true, and I'm not being completely fair, but I feel maybe Babar and Rizwan and Hafiz are not really getting a massive challenge. I mean, with their experience of playing T20 cricket, T10 cricket, T20 cricket for Pakistan internationals, as I mentioned earlier, this bowling is really not up to world international high quality level at this moment in time. And I'm not saying that in terms of talent, I'm saying that in terms of strategy. So I think that if you even look at some of their innings, I think we'll be doing an injustice if we don't count the amount of times these batsmen, who are our best batsmen, are still getting dropped. I mean, the fielding has also contributed to their great scores. Now, yes, of course they're in great form, and yes, they're great players. I don't want to get carried away because at the same time, we have a World Cup coming up later on in the year, and I think it's great that we're finding this consistency, but I am getting slightly nervous about this bowling strategy.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are. It's not just yourself. There were some great moments with the bowling, though, and I'm going to ask you all for your moment of the day, but I'm going to do mine first today because I was really heartened. I love good fast bowling. Anybody knows me knows it's my favorite thing in the game is good, solid, aggressive fast bowling. Mohammad Wasim. That spell that he bowled, even the non-wicket taking deliveries, he was just bowling straight fire. To Joe Clark right at the end. They're just going right past him. Serious pace coming in. Got unlucky with one. They got a tiny outside edge. In fact, twice in one over, he got a tiny outside edge. Otherwise, he would have had LBWs there. Serious pace. He runs in. He's got those blue eyes staring you down. This guy's got the makings of a really good fast bowler. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Mohammad Wasim. Adam, what was your moment of the day?
Mine was related to a fast bowler as well. Lekin thoda off topic. Twitter pe Dale Steyn was asking about who commented about his midlife crisis and in yesterday's match. और वो निकला जी के Simon Duell ने किया. And at the same time, commentary में Bazid, Alan Wilkins और Danny Morrison थे और वो गंजे लोगों के बारे में बात कर रहे थे कि अच्छा ये स्टेजेस होती हैं बाल यहाँ से यहाँ पे डैनी मॉरिसन तक पहुंच जाते हैं. सो इट केम अ फुल सर्कल कि ट्विटर पे एक अलग फड्डा चल रहा है बालों को लेकर और कमेंट्री बॉक्स में भी बाल डिस्कस हो रहे हैं. So that was my moment of the day.
It was unusual. I don't know how I feel about that Dale Steyn thing. I don't know if he was a little bit touchy or whether he was justified. We'll talk about that as well in a minute. Armaan, what was your moment of the day?
My moment of the day, honestly, even though I've been criticizing the bowling, I really enjoyed Wahab's spell today. The fact that he was almost written off. To take 4 wickets in a T20 international, especially, I think if I'm not wrong, he had his most expensive T20 games in the last couple of games. And I think today was his most economical spell as well. Definitely this season. If not this season, then it might be in all PSLs as well. But regardless of whether or not it was, the point is he bowled with a lot of resilience. And I think that was really good to see, especially from an older, experienced player. Because some people have written him off. And it follows on from what happened yesterday. Azam Khan hit him for a really big 6 outside of the ground. But a lot of people might have not seen that Wahab himself hit a massive 6 later on yesterday that also went outside the ground. So I feel that might have been a watershed moment. And sometimes for a top athlete, they need to, hit rock bottom before they realize that they need to make a comeback. And that was really nice to see.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's really nice to see him turn it around. 4 for 17 he bowled for his 4 overs. You're right, his previous game, it was his most expensive return ever in all forms of 4-over cricket, T20 cricket. So, I mean, with that, I was really happy for it. Genuinely really happy for him when I saw him get his 4th wicket as well, even though it cost me fantasy points, but I'll deal with that another time. Dean Ahmad, tell me, sir, what was your moment of the day?
Yeah, look, I think as fans of Pakistan cricket, we're always used to fast bowling talents, whether young or old, throughout the years. We look past the generations. But what we also lack is probably young batting talent. We've seen over the years 1 or 2 names crop through, but what was good to see today was the likes of Haider Ali, who obviously came to the scene last year, and for the confidence and the flair first ball to come down and hit that 6 to, again, a quality bowler, and someone like Fawad Ahmed was, for me, outstanding. And it's always good to see, again, Pakistani teams, i.e. the franchises here, chase down totals, because that's something as Pakistan fans we're not really used to.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just a blistering hitter of the ball. And we talked about him a lot yesterday. Haider Ali, just such a prospect, so much talent. Got a little bit worried about his recent international performances, but was just great to see him in action. All right, fine. Anam, I'm going to take the bait. Let's talk about Dale Steyn a little bit. I wasn't planning to, but let's do it. There were 3 tweets in sequence, right, that he sent, and he seemed like he was genuinely quite annoyed about it. Now, if there's one characteristic of this year's PSL commentators, is they're quite like jokey, laughy. They're not taking themselves too seriously. They're quite comfortable taking the mickey out of each other, and Bazid Khan does that at the best of times, whether he knows the other person or not. So it's not something that's out of character for this team. What do you think? How did you respond to Anam? Did you think ये कुछ ज़्यादा दिल पे ले रहा है, थोड़ा सा छोड़ दो, or do you think ये वाकई सही बात है, ये बुरी बात थी?
थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा दिल पे ले लिया. हाँ, ठीक है, शायद कभी-कभी आप ऐसे कमेंट्स कर जाते हो जो शायद उस टाइम पे इंसान उस फेज में होता है, उसको वो इनसेंसिटिवली ले लेता है. शायद अगर डेल स्टेन किसी और मूड में होता तो वो इतना उसको दिल पे मत लेता. अब पता नहीं डेल स्टेन उस पर किस स्टेट ऑफ माइंड में था कि उसने वो पूरी बात को ज्यादा दिल पे ले लिया. सो या आई गेस थोड़ा सा ही इज जस्टिफाइड विद व्हाट ही इज सेइंग कि यार अगर आप कमेंटेटर हो तो मैच के बारे में कमेंट करो, पर्सनल जिंदगी के बारे में किसी की मत बोलो कि वो क्या कर रहा है पर्सनल जिंदगी में, उसकी क्या ओरिएंटेशन है, जो भी है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. पर आई डोंट नो, बस मुझे लगता है कि उसने थोड़ा सा ज्यादा दिल पे ले लिया.
This is interesting because Armaan and I were talking about this on WhatsApp, and he was like, no, I understand that he might be upset, but why is he equating this to gender equality and sexual orientation? What does that have to do with the midlife crisis? I mean, it's a little bit bizarre, Armaan, right?
भाई क्या मजाक लगाया हुआ है इस बंदे ने. Like, firstly, do your homework. ठीक है ना, आप जरा होमवर्क करके आए जो आप PSL आए. PSL की commentary has been different to all the commentaries that we've seen in all T20 leagues. ठीक है ना, there has always been this jokey dynamic, especially with the English commentators in Pakistan, and they did a hell of a lot to make cricket and international players come back to Pakistan because of creating an atmosphere that was really friendly and positive, which really represents Pakistani culture. ठीक है ना, सबसे पहली बात ये. So when Dale Steyn is signing up for the PSL, he's getting paid for it. He's coming. He should really have done his homework about the style of commentary. So there is going to be loose remarks given here and there. यार मुझे समझ नहीं आता, बंदे की अगर बाल पे आपने कमेंट कर भी दिया एज अ स्लाइड रिमार्क, आप ले लो अपने स्ट्राइड में. इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट खेला, आपकी क्या उम्र हो गई है, आपको इस बात पे आप इतने टची हो रहे हो, आप अपने बाल के स्टाइल पे किसी ने कमेंट कर दिया, वो भी in a PSL which is like an entertaining league. It's you're in the public eye. If you're going to change your appearance and you're a superstar, of course people are going to talk about it. Or उस चीज को you're equating with like these major issues about people talking about your sexual orientation and people talking about your gender and पता नहीं क्या उसमें. I don't want to misquote him, but you get the point. He's taking these really big social issues and equating that to somebody making a touch and go comment, sort of lighthearted comment on him having a midlife crisis. Even though we're seeing him, listen, there is something very important to say. बंदा शायद बहुत टची इसलिए भी था क्योंकि कल उसने एक बहुत ही खतरनाक और बहुत बुरी स्पेल ऑफ बॉलिंग की थी इन द लास्ट ओवर, जिसमें से वो मैच हार गए थे. तो उस टाइम पे इमोशन थोड़े हाई होते हैं, उस बात पे कोई भी आपका आके कुछ भी कह देना, उस वक्त थप्पड़ मारने का दिल चाहता है. तो आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हेन यू आर in the heat of battle. I think your emotions can be slightly different. So we should respect that. That part I don't really mind. But at the same time, I think he needs to take a little bit of a chill pill. Sorry, I went on for a minute.
No, totally. I think I mostly agree with you there. Dean, like, you know, when you deal with a lot of players, I know you guide them not just like on pitches and making deals and endorsements and stuff, but also like how to kind of conduct yourself, right? There's been a few instances of dodgy conduct in this PSL, just people maybe not behaving in the way that's becoming of their experience, of their stature. Like, you know, when you deal with, like, I know you look after. I hope it's okay for me to see you look after like Dan Lawrence and, you know, all these really kind of emerging cricketers who are right there in the spotlight. I mean, do you ever kind of advise them to stay away from the Twitter and social media? Just don't let it get in your head?
Of course, 100%. You rightly mentioned it. Mentoring, especially for the younger lads, is a super important role of what we do. And yes, look, social media, we all know it. It's been said for years now, has its evils. And I think we as, even myself included to an extent, as non-players, non-athletes, don't really understand the feeling of, when you're inside that dressing room, maybe you've had a tough day, i.e. at work, and your phone is pinging, you look at the tweets, and sometimes, it's tough, especially, when you're playing international cricket or test cricket, for example. It's only human nature to take things a certain way. So, of course, yes, there's always things to do and times to stay off social media. And, you look at the examples. I don't know if you saw what Rory Burns tweeted the other day, and England have not now obviously reprimanded him. So it has its goods, but it also has its bad.
Especially when you're kind of mentally vulnerable as well, like we saw there was a little spat between Alex Hartley, England women's player, and Ben Duckett as well. And it's not a nice look for that to play itself out in public. Obviously Hafiz and, Safraz have had their little back and forth. It's just like sometimes you kind of wish they just don't. Every year I go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and perform a show, and the first thing my agent tells me is don't read your reviews. Under no circumstances do you read your reviews. They go in your head. You start overcompensating, undercompensating, thinking about this. It's really no different for sports athletes. I kind of like that old school attitude of just like, listen, 5 days you're playing, put that phone away, or just block the social media and play your Candy Crush.
Yeah. And if you look at the top players, a lot of them do that. But everyone is different. It's human nature. I mean, I look at my screen time. If I wouldn't have a chance in hell of doing that. I've got more than 15, 16 hours a day. There's no chance. So it's tough work for these guys. A lot of us, fans of the game probably don't realise just how tough it is. But, fair play to them. And sometimes, even I look through Twitter and I see, really, it's a bit harsh. Everyone has bad days on. Executing your skills, especially at this level with all the pressure and stuff, it's no easy feat.
Absolutely. Like, Pakistani fans can be quite scathing as well. I have to say, yaar bhai, thoda lihaz kar liya karo, please.
Particularly Pakistani fans, 100%. Some of the tweets, pure savageness.
Absolutely. There's no love lost there. Listen, just before we wrap up, because I know we're coming up to the end, I just wanted to bring to your guys' attention one very interesting thing that Imad Wasim said at the end of the first game today, right? He was being post-match interviewed. Anam, I'm going to ask you this first, so just be ready. He said that it's really great to have Mohammad Amir in the team. Mohammad Amir is the best bowler in the world, not just in Pakistan, but the best bowler in the world, right? And he said it with full conviction, absolutely no second guessing himself. There was no like, haan, main uski tareef kar raha hu kyunki mera teammate hai. It was straight, like, I believe this, right? Imad Wasim, captain of the Karachi Kings. Maybe there's an element of, supporting his bowler there, but it looked like he really believed it. I tweeted it. I got a ton of abuse from all over the world. But please don't shoot the messenger, bhai. Main bas bata raha hu ki bande ne kya kaha hai. Maine nahi kaha, bande ne kaha, mere piche kyun pa rahe ho? Anam, how did you respond to that?
अच्छा मैंने सुना नहीं पोस्ट मैच लेकिन now that you're telling me and I saw a few tweets as well. I don't know यार नहीं I think थोड़ी सी exaggeration है. I think Amir is past his prime now and नहीं not the best in the world. Maybe he's the best in the league right now, but league में भी competition है काफी ज़्यादा fast bowlers का. So no, I think this is a little over the top for me.
I think I agree with you. I think it's very over the top, actually. I think this is a case of a captain being pleased with a bowler's performance, getting maybe a little bit carried away. But I know Armaan is a big fan of Mohammad Amir. What do you think, mate? Do you agree?
देखो, सबसे पहली बात ये है कि all Pakistanis have a very complicated relationship with Mohammad Amir for all the reasons we all know about. ठीक है ना? लेकिन how can you not consider him to be? I mean, ठीक है, you might have a preference for somebody else. ठीक है ना? This banda has shown you his talent at a young age. He's come back. Yes, it's obviously not the same as it was when he first came in terms of his test ball time. He's in fact retired from test. But in terms of one day, अभी आपके चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी फाइनल भूल गए हो कि उसने क्या आपके लिए किया पाकिस्तान के लिए? क्या आप भूल गए कि वर्ल्ड कप में when he got called back to the squad after not even being considered, what he did for you in the World Cup, and he was one of your top bowlers there alongside Shaheen Shah Afridi. अब आप PSL में देख लो, फिर वो बंदा खेल नहीं रहा आपके लिए. तो जैसे ही आप limelight में, what it is, our personal opinions of what's going on behind the scenes and agendas and media and Twitter wars, they can cloud your judgment. But based on his performance, he's always delivered for Pakistan on the highest stage. Always, always, always. And now you're watching the PSL. आप मुझे बता दो, which other bowler, apart from Shaheen Shah Afridi, is in his league with the new ball? There isn't one. You'd be making it up because we're watching, we're reviewing every game. So क्योंकि ये पाकिस्तान में हो रहा है, तो somehow we can't equate him to the Pat Cummins and the English Andersons और पता नहीं कहाँ से आप लोग bowlers लेके आ रहे हो. भाई उनकी green wickets हैं, bouncy wickets हैं. हमारे यहाँ तो कुछ है ही नहीं fast bowlers के लिए. फिर भी बंदा हर मैच में perform कर रहा है. Yes, Mohammad Amir is the best in the world. और क्या कर लोगे?
Yeah, but I love it. That's how you stand up for it. You're gonna get yourself a nice London Spirit shirt, yeah, when he comes and plays in the 100.
और भी विकेट लेगा यार. यहाँ तो green wicket तब भी आते हैं खराब.
No, it's gonna. Mohammad Amir is gonna be here in England this summer. We're gonna be very excited about seeing him. He's like the one thing I will say is that he's without a doubt one of the most exciting bowlers in the world, and what he does on the pitch is definitely box office. Whether he's the best in the world right now, I find that hard to agree with. But he definitely has a big place in Pakistan. Go on, then, Dean. Tell me, what do you reckon? It feels like he's just got a little bit carried away.
No, look, I will say categorically, Mohammad Amir is one of the best bowlers at the current time and has been for the last few years in the world. Look, I think you look at his performances. I mean, we, as what I've realised as Pakistan fans and fans in general, have a very short memory. Have you guys realised this? This man has won us, countless trophies now, and his talent speaks for itself. He's a great guy, and I agree with him, Wasim, in that sense. He is one of the best bowlers in the world for sure.
Yeah, well, there we go. We've got opinions across the board. I have a very short memory as well, Dean. I reckon Wahab Riaz is the best bowler in the world, but that doesn't matter. So anyway, listen, guys, it's a pleasure as always to have you. But I can't let you go without getting predictions for tomorrow. Well done to both Anam and Armaan, who got both their predictions right yesterday, and I got both mine wrong. Everything went wrong for me yesterday. I went with Multan and Islamabad just to be different, and listen to this, kids. You don't need to be different just to be different. So. Tomorrow, big game, the big game. This is the big daddy, Lahore versus Karachi, and I can't wait. Obviously, it's a really big match. It's basically me versus Armaan. So Anam, you start first. Neutral. Who's winning?
Just for that anthem, I think I'm going to root for Lahore. Actually, Lahore's going to win tomorrow.
And Armaan, I imagine, despite the anthem, you have to back Karachi.
100%. मतलब कि कराची देखो कराची और लाहौर का जब मैच होता है ना तो it's bigger than the PSL almost. ये हमारी जो rivalry है ना, it's biryani versus pulao, it's nihari versus maya. So it's gonna be amazing. कल बहुत celebration का mood है. कल सुबह नाश्ता बहुत जबरदस्त करूँगा.
And fantastic. I love to hear. Dean, what's your affiliation? What's your favorite? What's your PSL go-to team? Or do you not have one because of the?
It's been Quetta, but now I'd probably have to sit on the fence. Look, how good would it be if we see Lahore perform that pre-game? What about that music video?
I don't think we could handle it. I don't think they have enough censor boards in Pakistan to deal with that. But come on then, I'm putting you on the spot, mate. Who's winning tomorrow's game?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a big derby. I think both sides this year, especially Lahore, this year, they're quite a balanced side. But I still think Karachi, with that balance, they've got a good balance between youth and dangerous players, but also the experience in players like Nabi, Dan Christian, for example. So probably I'm going to say with the form they're in, especially now Barber getting that 90 the other day, probably Karachi. I'm going to go Karachi.
It's going to be very exciting. Shaheen versus Barber. If Karachi bat first, that's the first thing we'll see tomorrow. That's very exciting. I predicted the team that wins the toss is going to win the game. No, I'll give you a proper prediction. I'm saying super over, mate. I reckon this.
How good would that be?
I think Lahore will win the toss, and they'll have to chase. But Lahore is one of the, I think, just looking at their batting lineup, I think they're probably worst place to chase because they're a bit weaker down. And Karachi have got very resilient and loads of options with the ball. And obviously that Mohammad Amir spell late in the game, I think it'll come down to like 30 or 4 overs required. And Amir will bowl like the last over for 5 runs with a single off the last ball to secure a super over. What a match it would be if it happened.
That's still not an answer, by the way. Who's winning the super over?
Oh, Lahore's going to win the super over, but it'll get to the super over.
Super over, you sure?
I'm telling you, totally, absolutely. Ben Dunk will hit the winning runs. So listen, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Huge thank you to our special guest today, Dean Ahmad, the CEO of Fine Edge Management. Definitely, hit them up if you've got a lucrative opportunity for cricket players. Talk to my man over here. And thank you, of course, to Anam and Armaan. We'll be back tomorrow with our special guest, Dr. Samara Afzal. So please do join us. In the meantime, stay happy, stay well, and post-match chat is done.